What's up again, everybody? I'm Clayton. Welcome back to Ages of Film. And today I'm going to be reviewing the movie The Karate Kid from 1984, directed by John G. Avildsen. But before I get into this review, I just want to say what is up to all my subscribers out there. Thank you very much for being here, for your support. Don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe so you can stay notified every time I upload new content. For all the new subscribers and new wolves out there, welcome to the pack. Glad to have you. Thank you for being here. And just as a reminder and a disclaimer to everybody, this is just my opinion on this movie. No need to be upset or offended by anything I have to say. Let me know your thoughts on The Karate Kid in the comment section. Anything and everything you want to say. All I ask that you be respectful about it. And with that being said, let's talk The Karate Kid. So, a classic, right, from the 80s, a movie that a lot of people know and love, a movie that I think every guy should see at some point in his life. I personally did not come around to this movie for a while. I didn't get to see it for, years. I didn't see it until I was well into my adult years. This, a movie that just kind of fell through the cracks for me. We all have those movies that we don't get around to seeing for the first time until we're adults and they're classics, and we look back like, why did I not see that when I was younger? And it's just, we all have movies like that. They just kind of fall through the cracks and we just miss them. But I have seen The Karate Kid, watched it back for this review, and my thoughts and opinion on this movie haven't really changed since the first time I saw it. My thoughts on this movie now have been pretty consistent since I've seen this movie, since I first saw it. So you're getting a pretty consistent review here and thoughts on The Karate Kid from me. I do love this movie. I'll just go ahead and say that. And getting into the positives with this film, which are a lot of positives, I think a strong positive for me is in the script department. I think this is a very well-written movie from a writing standpoint. There's not really any plot holes here that I can pick apart. There's not really any issues with the script or the screenplay here that I can point out and say, yeah, that they messed up here or they missed something there. It's a very tight, well-written screenplay that's coherent. It's easy to follow, makes sense, and there's kind of an answer for everything that happens here in the movie. So I think from a writing standpoint, I think The Karate Kid is a very well-written movie. Just from a technical level, the actual screenplay itself, pretty well handled and well put together. It's tight. There's not really any filler in the script. Everything in there is in there for a reason. Everything in there is doing something for the story or the characters in this movie. So I think the script is a strong positive because it's well written, it's tight, it's, there's no filler. It gets in, gets out, does its thing, has something to say. And so I give it high remarks for its, for the writing and the screenplay here. I also, another positive for me, strong positive, are the characters here. Love the characters in this movie. Obviously, Daniel, the main character here, played by Ralph Macchio, is a great character. And he's a character that you really invest in. Like, this is a character-driven movie, so you spend the bulk of the time with your main character, with Daniel, so that you really invest with a character, you buy into his story, and by the end of the movie, you feel like you know Daniel pretty well. And I enjoy when movies do that, because the most important thing to me in film is characters and story. And I want characters that I can invest in, because the characters make up the story. So if there's characters that you don't really buy into, if there's characters you don't really invest in or don't really care about, it's going to be hard for me to really care a whole lot about the story. While the story might be interesting, it's probably not going to be something I come back to a lot if there's not characters in the movie that I love and buy into and invest with. And so that's why characters are very important, because they make up the story. And for me, I think that the characters here are well written. Daniel is a likable character. You see likable qualities to his character. The fact that he cares about people, the fact that he wants to do the right thing. He is a loyal friend. He's not a jerk or, an unlikable guy. Like, there are likable qualities to Daniel as a character. I think he's well written. His love interest, Allie, I think is also a good character, is also well written. Also gives me reasons to like her as a character. She shows likable qualities as well. She's not just there to look pretty. She actually has character to her that is respectable, admirable, and gives me reasons to like her. Mr. Miyagi, obviously a legend, right? We all love Mr. Miyagi. We all wish we had a Mr. Miyagi in our lives. We would probably all be better off with the Mr. Miyagi in our lives. He's a great character, also well written, and also has layers to him. We find out in this movie that he also has kind of this backstory of loss that he's dealt with in his life. So he's not just a character that's flat. He's not just a character that we only see one side to him. We do see layers to Mr. Miyagi. We do get some backstory to kind of round that character a little bit. We see different sides of his personality come out in this movie. So I think he's also a well-written character. So not only do I think the screenplay itself was a well-written screenplay, I also think the character writing was very good and a strong positive. The characters themselves are well-written characters. The antagonists in this movie, the main blonde douchebag, he's a well-written character. His coach, his dick trainer, also well-written antagonist. So the protagonists are well-written, the antagonists are well-written, and that makes for a really good screenplay and good, strong character writing, because we also see Daniel, we see the struggle that he goes through in this movie with the bullies, the people that, these kids, group of kids that are bullying him, hazing him, making his life a living hell. We have the whole first and almost entire second act. We go through that struggle with Daniel. So it's not just like a one-time thing. He got bullied and then the rest of the film is him trying to get back at the bully. Like, they really make you feel and put you in Daniel's life where you really feel for this character. You want him to succeed. You want him to overcome this struggle with these bullies. So, and that's a testament to the strong script and writing here, both character writing and screenplay writing in the film. So the writing here, I think, is a very strong positive. There's also lessons learned in this movie. It's a film that I think also has something to say. Learning karate, as Daniel learns karate, he also has to learn discipline. He has to learn to become a man and learn that karate is not just for revenge or retribution. It's in every walk of life. It's the discipline and the lessons you learn apply to all aspects of life. You don't quit. You don't give up. You keep finding a way to get back to your feet and keep fighting. So I like those lessons that the film offers in the movie. I also thought the acting was pretty good. The character Daniel has to be presented by a pretty good actor, since the entire movie is essentially on his shoulders. You gotta find an actor that can bring that energy and that charisma and those likable traits to the screen for audiences to buy into when you have a younger character like that. And I think that Ralph Macchio was a good choice for the character of Daniel, because he has that kind of natural energy about him. When he's on screen, you're interested, right? At least for me, I'm invested with him. I think his performance here is really good. Very believable. When he's getting bullied, when he's going through the different struggles he's going through, I buy into it. I believe it. I'm convinced. He's very convincing in his performance in this film, in my opinion. So I thought he does a really good job. Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi, also a solid performance here as well. I like their chemistry. I think they have very good chemistry together as sensei and student. Fully buy into their relationship. I think the actress who played Allie also has good chemistry with Machio. So yeah, the performances here across the board were all pretty solid. Nothing that's going to be, Daniel Day-Lewis, but you don't have to be Daniel Day-Lewis in every movie, right? You just have to be good. Your performances have to be believable, to have to be entertaining. I have to at least buy into what you're doing. You don't necessarily have to be Oscar worthy in every performance you're doing, as long as the acting performances you give are a positive to the film and provide a positive viewing experience, which I would argue they do in this movie. So the acting for me here is positive as well. I like the fighting choreography. At the tournament towards the end of the movie, I thought was shot pretty well. I like the fighting choreography here. You're actually seeing what's going on. They're not just quick cuts where you have a hard time seeing what's even going on. I think the fighting choreography is pretty well shot. Some good camera framing here for the fighting, where you can actually see the fight taking place. You feel like you're a participant there. You feel like you're someone actually in the audience watching the fight, watching the fights because of how they're shot. So I do think the fighting choreography was pretty well handled. And the cinematography was good. There are some really beautiful shots in this movie, especially on the beach with the sunset coming up, and you see Daniel and Mr. Miyagi training, out there on the beach. So just some really gorgeous, beautiful shots in the movie. So I really liked the cinematography in the movie as well. I thought that was a strong positive. Moving into the negatives with this film, just a couple of negatives for me. Nothing major. This is a great film and a movie that I love. But I do think it has a couple of issues for me. One of them, I think, although the story does provide lessons and it does provide, I think, a good message, positive message, it's also a story as far as, the formation of the story, how it's crafted. It is pretty predictable, in my opinion. You may feel differently, and that's fine. But for me, it's like it's kind of generic in the beats throughout the movie. It's kind of a predictable film. Like, I remember watching it the first time, not really knowing much about it other than this was a classic movie. I remember watching it the first time, sitting back as the movie, credits were coming up, and I'm sitting there, and I'm as the movie starts unfolding, I'm trying to figure out in my head where it's going and if I can figure out how the movie's going to end. And when the movie ended, I was pretty much dead on with my prediction of the film. It plays out pretty predictably. The guy's gonna have some a plot and some struggle with some bullies. He's gonna fall in love with a girl that he's gonna end up winning by the end of the movie. He's gonna lose a couple of fights. He's gonna have to get his butt kicked But then by the end, he's going to come back, he's going to learn karate, he's going to win the fight, and, you know, it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows for him at the end. And that's pretty much the blueprint of what happens. You know, he does fall in love with this girl. They do have some typical, you know, relationship struggles in movie like you have in most movies. But he ends up winning Allie in the end. He gets his butt kicked in the beginning. He goes to the tournament. He learns his karate, goes to the tournament, and the plot resolves with him winning the fight and riding off into the sunset. So from that standpoint, it's a pretty predictable story, as far as like how it's structured, you know, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is somewhat of a negative for me, because I don't like being able to figure out the entire plot of a movie from the beginning. You know, that I like movies that are unpredictable, movies that I might have an idea of how it's going to play out, but then they do something different and change how I thought the film was going to play out. And, you know, movies like that, I think, are movies that I enjoy more, and I find myself going back to more because of that. But when it's a movie that I find pretty predictable and I can figure out from the beginning of the movie how it's going to end, I'm not really a fan of that. It's just, it's I don't want to say it's lazy writing, but it's just, yeah, it's not, I don't find it super creative either. So for me, that's kind of a negative, and just the fact that, again, it's kind of generic and pretty predictable in the storytelling structure of the movie. Another negative for me was the score here. I feel like the score could have been handled better. I didn't really get any type of emotion or feeling from the score. I got it from the characters, you know, because I invested with these characters. I bought into these characters. I was pulling for Daniel. I was pulling for Mr. Miyagi. But score in a film should elevate emotion. It should bring out certain emotion that the filmmaker's trying to get you to feel for a certain character or for a certain situation. And for me personally, I didn't get that from the score. The score just didn't really do much for me. So I think the score could have probably been composed better, could have, you know, had a score that elevated those emotions and those feelings a little better for me. And then the only other negative I would say for me would be at the end with the crane kick. You know the crane kick is coming because they kind of tease it in earlier on in the movie when you see Mr. Miyagi doing the crane kick and stuff. He kind of tells Daniel about it. You know the crane kick is coming. But then the way that they put it into the script felt very, very forced. You know, it's like at the end of towards the very end of the movie, when Daniel's hurt, he's back in the locker room. He's literally injured, hasn't had any actual proper training on the crane kick. I mean, we see him trying to do it himself, but he hasn't been taught how to do the crane kick until the very end when he's injured. And he only has a couple of minutes before he actually has to go out and compete. And then all of a sudden, he goes out and executes the crane kick perfectly and gets that is how he ends up winning the fight, is from the crane kick. So it just felt very forced, because like there's no way that he would have learned the crane kick in a matter of like 2 minutes while being injured. You know, that's not an easy kick to pull off. As someone who has trained in Taekwondo, any kick, you don't just learn and master in 2 minutes. You know, there's a reason it takes weeks and months and years of training in a martial art to master the discipline of it. And so the fact that Daniel just went back in the locker room, injured leg, learned the crane kick in a matter of a couple minutes, and then came out and executed it flawlessly to win the championship, just felt very forced to me. And then, I mean, obviously, you knew he was going to end up winning the fight. That's what the whole plot was building to. I just felt like they could have been at least showing Daniel training the crane kick throughout the second and third act and learning how to master it. That would have made it more believable when he does use it in the tournament than him not having any proper training on it, going back to the locker room, learning it in 2 minutes, and then coming out and using it and winning with it. Like, to me, it's just, again, having done martial arts, knowing the type of discipline and time that it takes to learn certain moves and kicks like that, I don't buy it for a second that he would have gone back, learned it in 2 minutes, and then come out and won with it. So, but that's about it for negatives, and none of those are like huge negatives that just, you know, really take a toll on my experience with the film. They're just a few things that keep it from the 5-star tier level. So my overall rating for The Karate Kid is 4.5 stars. This is a movie that I love. I do find it very rewatchable, because I love it. I love the story. I love the characters. I want to go back to these characters and spend time with them, you know, frequently. So I think it does have rewatch value. It does hold up. It is well put together. I think the script is very well written. And yeah, it's a great film, a film that I love. 4.5 stars doesn't quite get to that 5-star tier for the few reasons that I mentioned, but overall still a great film. And 4.5 stars is my rating of The Karate Kid. Let me know your rating in the comment section. Do you agree with my opinion on this movie? Is this a 5-star film for you? Are you not a fan of this movie? Anything and everything you want to let me know about The Karate Kid, let me know in the comment section. Thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, kick it and rock on.